Hello and welcome. So today we're going to dig into the story of modern India. And I'll tell you right now, its origins, they are probably not at all what you think. Let's get into it. All right, so to get our bearings, let's just kick things off with a question. When you hear the word India, what comes to mind? Probably ancient civilizations, thousands of years of history, right? But what if I asked you, when did this single unified nation of India actually get created? Well, the answer, according to the source material we're looking at, is 1877. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, of course, the culture, the civilizations, they're ancient. But the political entity that we call India today, it's a surprisingly modern invention. And honestly, this one fact is the absolute key to understanding everything that follows. Okay, so if the British Empire is the one that created the Indian Empire in 1877, the next obvious question is, why? Why would they do that? And the answer really boils down to one word: fear. This is so crucial to get your head around. Before the British really consolidated power, there was no single country called India. Think of it less like a country and more like, well, Europe. It was this incredible complex tapestry of hundreds of different kingdoms, languages, and religions, mostly Hindu and Muslim. But the key thing is, it was not one single political unit. And this is where that fear I mentioned comes into play. See, the whole 19th century was pretty much dominated by this massive global rivalry. They called it the Great Game. You had two titans on the board. On one side, the British Empire, the undisputed king of the seas. Their whole empire, their wealth, depended on protecting their trade routes and colonies. And on the other side, the massive Russian Empire, a land-based behemoth just constantly, relentlessly pushing south. And what's so wild, and what the source material really hammers home, is that almost everything Britain did in India, every move they made, was a reaction to this one single threat. They were terrified that Russia was going to keep pushing south and snatch away the jewel in the crown of their empire. So this fear led the British to adopt a very specific geopolitical strategy. And there's actually a great Japanese term that describes it perfectly: bohate. A bohate is literally a seawall, a breakwater, something you build to absorb the shock of a huge wave and protect whatever is behind it. In geopolitics, it's the exact same idea, but we call it a buffer state. So here you can see Britain's grand plan laid out. Step 1, take all those fragmented Indian states and unify them. Forge them into a single, strong Indian empire. That was the prize, the core they had to protect. Step 2, create the buffer states, the bohate, by securing the territories of Afghanistan and Tibet. And then, step 3, use that new wall of buffer states to stop Russia dead in its tracks. And just like that, the modern nation of India was literally born, not out of some national awakening, but as a strategic asset in this global chess match. All right, so let's fast forward to the middle of the 20th century. After World War II, the British Empire basically crumbled. But here's the thing. The Great Game, the struggle for influence over the Indian subcontinent, it didn't end. Not at all. It just got a whole new set of players. And things moved fast, really fast. Britain was completely drained by the war. It just couldn't hold on to its empire anymore. So in 1947, independence was granted. But that unified entity the British had built, it immediately fractured, splitting right down religious lines into Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan. So now the British are out, the Cold War is heating up, and all the new alliances on this new chessboard start to form around one simple, timeless rule of geopolitics: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And this is where you can see how the old roles just got recast with new actors. The United States became the new global sea power, basically stepping right into Britain's shoes. And just like Britain feared Russia, the US feared Soviet expansion. So what did they do? They backed Pakistan as their new bohate, their buffer state. Well, naturally, this pushed India, who now saw a US-backed Pakistan as a huge threat, right into an alliance with the other side, the new great land power, the Soviet Union. It's amazing, really. The game was the same, only the flags were different. Then, another huge piece falls on the board in 1951. When China annexed Tibet, India suddenly lost its northern buffer, that very wall that Britain had worked so hard to establish. All of a sudden, India has a new, powerful, and frankly scary rival right on its border. This just cemented its reliance on the only major power it had left to turn to, the Soviet Union. And this brings us to the next phase of the game, a phase where all these rivalries become, in a way, permanently frozen and infinitely more dangerous. Why? Because now the players have nukes. And what happened next was this terrifyingly simple chain reaction, a domino effect. First, China gets the bomb. That, of course, alarms its new rival, India. So India, feeling totally threatened, develops its own nuclear capability with a little help from its friend, the USSR. And then what happens? Well, that forces Pakistan, now terrified of a nuclear India, to develop a bomb of its own, this time with help from its ally, China. See how that works? A perfect, scary triangle. And all of this has led to the incredibly tense, incredibly complicated web of rivalries we see in the region today. I mean, you've got these overlapping, interlocking rivalries. India versus Pakistan over Kashmir, India versus China over their border, and then you have the alliances, like China and Pakistan being all-weather friends. It's all born from the old logic of the Great Game, but now it's supercharged with nuclear weapons. So where does all this history leave India today? I mean, how does a nation that was literally forged by foreign powers for their own strategic games, how does it navigate the 21st century? Well, the really remarkable thing is that despite this incredibly turbulent origin story, India has emerged as a surprisingly stable nation. Think about it. It's the world's largest democracy, and for the most part, it is held together, avoiding the kind of devastating civil wars that just tore apart so many other post-colonial states. But its biggest challenge, by far, is managing its relationship with China. It's this real conundrum. On one hand, they're economic partners. India needs that Chinese investment. But on the other hand, they are profound strategic rivals. They still have those border disputes. The source material puts it perfectly, saying they shake hands above the table while kicking each other underneath. I mean, that just nails it, doesn't it? And so, all of this leaves us with one final big question. Think about it. Modern India began its life not as a player in the game, but as the chess board itself, a creation of outside powers. So the question for today is, after more than 75 years of independence, has it finally transcended that origin? In the new great game of the 21st century, is India finally going to be one of the key players? Or will it remain the board on which other powers make their moves?